cover over these next 30 minutes or so. We're going to touch on New Year's resolutions, identifying some habits and some vices, some steps for goal setting, and how to create new habits and behavior change strategies. But before we dive in, I kind of want to assess who's on here with me today. So I have a few poll questions to get to know you and your fellow audience members a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first question. We're going to start easy here. Did you make a New Year's resolution this year? Either yes or no. And I'll give you a second to answer that. But did you make a New Year's resolution? Did you make a goal? Did you decide on something you want to change this year? A lot of times we hear that word New Year's resolutions, and maybe we just don't even want to touch that, knowing we failed in years past. But did you choose something at the beginning of this year you wanted to change? So we have some answers rolling in. So we have 36% or so saying yes. Ooh, it's getting a little more even. We're getting to be pretty split here. So half of you have said yes and half of you have said no, which is very interesting. Okay, yep, we're still at half and half. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll knowing half of you said yes, half of you said no. And moving on to the next one. If you did create a goal, a resolution for this 2023 year, how are they going? Are you still going strong? Maybe is it starting to fizzle now that we're getting towards the end of January? Or what resolutions? So go ahead, I've launched that. Go ahead and answer that when you get a chance. Are you still going strong with those goals? Starting to wear out a little bit? Or what resolution? Again, half of you said you didn't set one, and that's absolutely fine. But where are you with that now that we're towards the end of January? I'll give you a few seconds here to answer that question. What resolutions? Okay. We've got some who are still going strong. Majority are still what resolutions, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, great. So 18%, about 20% now, still going strong. About 30% are starting to fizzle, and the rest are saying what resolutions. So I'll go ahead and close that poll. That's interesting to see. A lot of us here are saying either no, we didn't create resolutions, or what resolutions are we talking about now that we're towards the end of January. Moving on to question number 3, which is again around the title of our presentation. We just want to know if you know what a vice is. So if someone were to ask you, what's your vice? Do you know what that means? Again, this is just a yes or no to kind of see where you stand before we dig into some of these topics. But do you know what a vice is? I'll give you a few moments here to select your answer. Majority are saying yes. Do you know what a vice is, or your vice is, or vice in general? Majority are saying yes. There's a few saying no, and that's okay because we're going to cover that as well. Okay, yep. Still majority saying yes. That's great. That's great to know whether you know just what it is in general or what you know what yours is. Go ahead and close this one out and move on to our final question. Then I will stop bothering you with polls. If you knew what a vice is, can you name yours specifically? Yes or no? Can you name your vice? Something that hinders your goals a little bit, something you're always drawn to. Can you name what your particular vice is? Yes or no? Okay, most people, 100% are saying yes. Couple rolling in now saying no. Okay, we're interesting. Okay, yeah, everyone, 94% are still at that yes mark, 6% no, and that's absolutely fine. Again, things we're going to dig into today, kind of why I wanted to see where everyone's standing before we dig further into this. So I will go ahead and close this. That's enough polls for the day. I do appreciate you participating. That kind of, again, gives me an idea of who I'm speaking with today. and we will continue on. So every new year, we are eager to set new goals and resolutions. Again, we're kind of split here saying, yes, some are, no, some aren't, for trying to accomplish them that year. And some popular goals we tend to see are to lose weight, maybe participate in dry January, go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, save enough for a vacation. The list goes on. Yet most of the time, by February or March or even sometimes late January, those goals and those resolutions are no longer. So what happened? What is getting in the way of accomplishing those goals? Many times it's not the goal itself. It's not the goal of the weight loss or going to the gym or saving enough money. It's not that it was too lofty or it wasn't achievable. It's often those smaller habits that contribute to that larger goal of making us fail. And we're hoping that throughout the next 30 minutes, we can help you start to pick out and pay attention to more of those smaller habits than just that overall goal to help them work in favor of accomplishing that overall goal. So before moving forward, what exactly are vices? People were split on this as well. Yes, they're familiar. No, they're not, because it can be pretty vague. But vices are anything used to detach from the experience of the present. And one thing about them is that they aren't always extreme. So it's not your alcoholism or binge eating or those serious issues that we tend to think of. And they aren't always brought on by negative emotions. We often think of vices that comes with my major stressors or a bad day or a negative life event that's occurring in your life right now, which those can definitely be true. That can very much bring it on. But I do challenge you to also look at what habits you carry even on your good days. Do you splurge a little every payday? Do you have a few drinks when you're hanging out with friends? Or maybe you reach for a bag of snacks on the evenings of your favorite show. Again, those are all great things. So just tend to look at what habits you carry, whether it's good day, bad day. What are you consistently seeing in your day-to-day life? And again, these aren't bad. I'm not saying to quit these things. Don't stay when you're invited out with friends. You should treat yourself every now and then. But many times these end up being just these very small habits that happen frequently over time. And even though they seemingly small when they happen, they do add up. So that's why we say they're just these small things to pay attention to in your day-to-day life. So what is your vice? It's time to put a name to it. Start by looking at it objectively. Try removing yourself or your specific emotions from the situation and realize how much time or money or energy that these vices are costing you daily or weekly. Walk yourself through your day. Did you lay in bed and scroll on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube for a few hours before falling asleep? Think about how many hours you have spent per day, week, month, as you're engaging in that habit nightly. Then think about why you chose that action. Is there a root of the problem? Maybe it's anxiety that you don't want to let your mind race before falling asleep, so you're mindlessly scrolling and trying to take attention away from things you're feeling. Maybe you're trying to avoid household tasks or a difficult conversation with a loved one. These reasonings, again, are going to be very personal to your goals, but try to select something that connects to why you're doing that action. And remember, it doesn't have to be bad or stressful that happened to you. It could be something good, like going to grab a cocktail with your friends, going on a mini shopping spree. In that same theme, be sure to reward yourself. Okay, so now you know a little bit more about what vices are. And hopefully you're able to place some awareness about what yours might be. But if not, just continue to look at your routine and give it some thought. Again, these are personal decisions. And they may be hard to bring awareness to at first. So it's not something you have to have on the forefront of your mind right now. Just continue to give it some thought as you're going through some of these behavior change strategies we're going to chat with you about. For now, we're going to transition on to some behavior change strategies to change your habits, manage vices. So please know it's important to start small. We live in a world of instant gratification. We want to throw everything we have at seeing these changes being made in our weight, our finances, our nutrition, or other lifestyle habits. But instead, take that step back and pick one thing that you can change that will leave an impact on that overall goal. And again, the overall goal of the weight, finances, nutrition, or lifestyle, that's not bad to have. Those are great goals. But we need to break those down just a bit further to be successful at making that overall change. Let's take finances, for example. Let's say your goal this year is to save enough money for a fall break trip with your family. That's great. And the concept seems pretty clear, right? Just don't spend as much money. But that leaves a lot of unknowns and a lot of room to fail. So pick out specific habits to not spend as much money. How many times do you stop for coffee on your way into work? How many times do you eat lunch out instead of preparing something and bringing it with you? Do you follow a list when you go to the grocery store? How many seemingly small $25, $30 Amazon orders do you make in a month? Pick one of those things, only one, and then count how many times it happens and work on decreasing that. Again, so if you're doing something multiple times a week, don't just go cold turkey and say, I'm going to stop and go all the way to 0. Maybe just limit it. Start there, bring it from 5 down to 3 or 2 and see how you do. And once that becomes more comfortable, you can then move on to the next goal. Take a week, it could take a month. It really just depends on your current habits, how you're navigating them, but don't try to change them all at once. Take it little by little. And I want you to be aware from the get-go that in your journey of doing this, you will have slip-ups. It's just a part of the process. And that's because habits take a while to build. You've created those for quite some time. It's going to take even longer to change them. So knowing from the start, you may have slip-ups, you likely will. What can we do then to work on those slip-ups when they do happen? So if something in your day does not go as planned, pick it back up immediately. Don't wait until Monday. We always hear that, right? I'll start again on Monday. Pick it right back up instead of abandoning everything you've worked for. Pick it up right after falling short, and that'll help your mind get back into that habit and help you continue successfully. And that all sounds great, right? But it is easier said than done. So how can we start changing behavior? First, we're going to bring attention to the habit itself. Once this webinar is over and you can head home or you have a break in your day, I want you to sit down. Yes, I want you to pick somewhere that's comfortable to you where you can focus. Grab your favorite pen, paper, your favorite notepad, or other preferred method of taking notes. I know a lot of people who live by that notes app on their phone. Whatever your favorite method is, use that. But for now, picture where you're going to sit and make this change. Is it your office? Maybe you have a favorite chair at home, or maybe it's outside at a park. Either way, this is up to you. Picture it and go somewhere where you're comfortable and you can focus. And later today, when you get there, again, using that favorite notepad and pen, I want you to actually write it down. Write down exactly what you want to change. Going back to our previous example of saving money for our family fall break trip, maybe you realize that you stop for coffee and a breakfast sandwich 3 to 4 times a week, and you want to limit that to maybe none, maybe 1 or 2, again, wherever you're starting. Write that at the top of your page. But then I want you to take notes of the things that happen before or after engaging in that habit. So what does that mean? Kind of using our example again, family fall break trip. Are you seeing that on the days you're stopping for your favorite coffee or your favorite breakfast, did you wake up late and you ran out of time to make breakfast? Was that the trigger? Were breakfast items just not on your grocery list at the store, so you forgot to pick them up and they're just not available to you? Maybe the thought of making breakfast overwhelms you, or you're not sure what to make. So then instead that triggers you to then stop on your way into work for your favorite coffee or breakfast. Or maybe you even just thought, I can't worry about it tonight, I'll just wing it tomorrow morning. All very, very common habits. So look at what your trigger was and write that down on this same notepad of paper. Bring awareness to it. And don't worry, like we said before, if this isn't coming to you right now or even later when you sit down to jot down these changes, just think about it over the next couple days of what that possible trigger could be. And it could change day to day. So just when you have that awareness, write it down on that piece of paper. Moving on to the next step, using this same comfortable, familiar environment with the same notepad, the same habit, I want you to make a plan. On the next few lines of your notepad, identify what your reasoning is for wanting to make this change. Is it costing you money? Is it hindering your health, either mental or physical? Is it for a specific goal in the future? Or are there family reasons behind it? This will vary for everyone. Again, this is all personal to you. What is your reason for wanting to make this change? Be honest with yourself. Next, write down who's in your support system. Who knows you are making this change? Can you text or call them when you need motivation? Or maybe you just want to keep them updated on the successes or the barriers of how you're feeling. Again, some of these are going to be very personal reasons. So if you aren't comfortable leaning into your whole support system, I encourage you to at least find one person you can confide in. Simply talking about it out loud can even keep it on the forefront of your mind. So one step further, if you truly can't find one person you're comfortable talking about these issues with, this may sound a little bit silly, but even talking through it out loud with just yourself can make it feel more real. Okay, moving on. Pick a date. Dedicate a time that you will start this habit change. And like we previously said, you don't have to wait till Monday or the start of the next month, although that may seem appealing, but I do want you to give yourself an exact deadline. This will give you some time to gear up for that date. This change is coming up, and it'll give you some momentum when you're going in to make these changes. And finally, write down what you're going to replace these negative triggers with. Heading back to our trusty example of our family fall break trip, you've identified that you want to save money. You've created a specific goal of not stopping for coffee or for breakfast numerous times a week. And you've recognized that you do this because making a meal at home is overwhelming, or you simply ran out of time. We've identified all of those strategies. So what can we replace this trigger with to help keep you on track? Maybe it's setting aside a quick, easy grab and go items in your pantry or fridge for times when the feelings of being overwhelmed chime in. So that could look like a box of granola bars, some apples, bananas, maybe those pre-made box protein shakes, a packet of oatmeal, something you can just grab and go when you said, oh my gosh, I'm already out of time. I either eat nothing or I stop along my way. Grab something that can help support you in making that change of not stopping for your breakfast or your favorite coffee. So now that we have some meat behind this change, keep your notes, journal, your favorite pen, whatever we use to jot down these changes, keep them in an accessible place because I want you to revisit them often. It's not something we just discuss and never look at again. You want to constantly remind yourself of why we're making these changes. And I want you to go to that same dedicated space, whether it be your office, your favorite chair at home, or that local park. I want you to review everything you wrote down, your goals, your motivators, your feelings, and those triggers. Regularly remind yourself of what is behind this change and make notes as you're doing it. What went well? What didn't go as well? What could you do better next time? I want this sheet to get messy with your thoughts as you're continuing on this journey. It's okay to make changes. You don't have to be perfect from the first goal you laid out. Make note of any slip-ups, which we knew because we accepted that from the beginning could happen. So write it down. What didn't go as planned? What can you do better the next time it happens? Don't ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. Admit that it happened and just write it down and make a plan for yourself for the next time. And while you're revisiting these notes, be sure to also jot down the successes you had. And this can get a little tricky because, again, we wanted to go from 0 to 60. We wanted to hit that goal perfectly. But look at the way these changes made you feel. And even if, going back to our example of coffee and breakfast, maybe you only went a couple times during the week, you wanted it to get down to 0 or 1, and you thought you were shooting to do better and it just didn't work out. Acknowledge that single success, that there were some days you were able to prevent that. Again, these successes don't have to be revolutionary. These successes didn't have to be perfect, but at least bring awareness to the things you did well. And these changes are going to take time to implement. So be sure to reward yourself with these positive steps in the right direction. This can be small and, again, up to you, but be sure to give yourself some positive reinforcement for making these changes. And we recognize this is a lot to do on your own. So take a look at what resources you have that will support you. We chatted a little about friends, family, coworkers you can lean on or share this journey with, but also take a look at what is available to you outside of your social relationships. Does your workplace have a wellness program that has health coaches or health coaching sessions available to you? Because working alongside a coach can help provide that reinforcement and that accountability, as well as tips and tricks you maybe didn't think of along the way. So enlisting the help of those professionals. Or maybe your workplace has an employee assistance program that's available that you could find professionals at a free or reduced cost that can help guide you, or you wouldn't know where else to look. Use those internal resources to really help you throughout this journey. Because yes, this change is about you, but enlisting help and using what is available to you in your network will just help you keep yourself on track. Whew, okay, that was a lot. And we wish Catherine could have been here, but I do appreciate you spending the time with me today. I am eager to know what questions you have. So I will stick around for a minute or so to see if any roll in. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope you join us at the next Apex Wellbeing webinar. But in the meantime, if you do think of a question, you're able to download these materials for yourself, or you can always just reach out to me or to Catherine if you want a personalized approach of something you're just really needing help with. We definitely invite you to take advantage of that. But otherwise, I'm not seeing any questions so far. So feel free, reach out when you need, and have a great week, everyone.